Hello and welcome to Dojo Live. My name is Kim Lantis, and it's my pleasure to be your host today. Joining me as my co-host is Sridhar Padmanabhan, a thought leader in the travel and hospitality industry with over, that's right, 20 years of experience working with a variety of travel suppliers, intermediaries, platforms. Sridhar, with your background, I'm sure you're going to be bringing some interesting perspectives to today's conversation. So thank you.
Yeah, great to be here, Kim. Thanks.
Perfect. And of course, the guest of honor, Jill Wilder, who is president at Aptech. Jill, with your impressive background, I think you got Sridhar beat here with
I
30,
do.
I think, years
I
in the
do.
industry. We're really excited to hear your perspectives. We're going to be talking about supercharging property performance in 2025, all about the data-driven approach to hospitality excellence. So thank you so much, Jill, for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Kim. So,
It's my pleasure. Yeah, I just wanted to kick this off by saying, with your years of experience, your service as president of Aptech, I would like to get to know you a little bit, your story of
okay.
how this kind of led up, that
hmm
professional journey to Aptech, and of course, what it
Absolutely.
is that you as a company do to support
Yeah.
hotels.
So I guess I'll fess up and say that I am starting my 39th year at Aptech, and
Wow.
have been in this industry since getting out of college. So I'm really dating myself. I was a customer of Aptech, so that's how I came to know Aptech. I worked in the accounting department at a country club here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So that was my start, and they had the Aptech computer system. And the, when Jay, the owner of Aptech, met me, he was a member at that country club, and he said, "When you've kind of accomplished everything you want to accomplish here, I'd love to have you come and work with me." So that was my
Wow.
start. And Aptech was very, very small at that point, and we've grown and we've enhanced our products and done quite a bit since then. And I have been with Aptech my entire career. It's definitely been an interesting time, but I do love my customers and the people I work with, and I'm very proud of Aptech, as I'm sure will come across in our talk here. I'm very, 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 very proud of what we do. So
And with all reason to be, I mean, 35, 39 years is fantastic. That's all 40 years for a company, or more than 40 years for a company, is
yeah,
definitely nothing to be batting an eye out at. And so much, I think, has probably changed over these last 4 decades,
yes,
because
yes,
we're going to be talking today specifically, right, about automation, forecasting,
yes,
AI, words that, well, forecasting definitely existed, I
yeah,
think, 40 years ago, much more complicated process, but relatively new words, and a lot has changed. And we want to look at how this is affecting budgeting for hotels all the way through guest loyalty. So it is going to be a very, very interesting conversation. As we start with these words, the accounting side, I'm curious if
yeah,
you could talk about this. I'm familiar with this. I just know it's
yeah,
important. Standardized chart of accounts, right?
absolutely,
Standardized chart of accounts in the industry, specifically the hospitality industry,
right.
what that means, why it's important, and how tech now is simplifying that.
Yeah, and let's kind of lead that into data. So you can grab any kind of data from any kind of source, but accounting is the core. It is your measurement. It is the way we all measure what we're doing. So, in order for you to be able to view and use AI and do all these great tools, you need to make sure the numbers are good and they're solid. So the reason that is well established in the hotel industry is that USALI, that Uniform System Chart of Accounts. And as you know, the new edition has just come out. That's to be adopted by January of 2026. So a lot of folks are flurrying now to get their budgets in under the new setup. And the real reason that's in place is so that we can have uniformity in the way we compare things. So when we're comparing things across brands, across properties, across all the many, many ways that we can compare, everybody's talking about the same measurement. So that if I'm talking about average rate, we're all talking about the components that went into average rate
Mm,
together. So the other side of accounting that I think is key to mention here is the important part of the operational statistics. And we all talk about general ledger and doing debits and credits and everything having to balance. But in the hospitality industry specifically, the statistics side is key to playing a role in the operations. So we want to know the number of covers that are being handled in each of the each
Hmm.
outlets. We want to know how many guests were there and where did those guests come from. So those are all statistics, and they play a very important role in being able to measure your data and performance. So that's why it's a mixture of the accounting and the statistics. So Aptech's focus began and is still there, a strong emphasis on accurate accounting and operational performance. So accounting and the USALI is super, it's a very important thing because it makes everyone's measuring much better, so that when we compare, and we all love to compare how we did and how we're doing, we're all comparing the exact same things. So that that's the importance of that. So
All right. And I think it makes a lot of sense. And then you touched on something else, this idea, this you mentioned a flurry to be
yes,
catching up with what's new requirements. We
yes,
also, in the hospitality industry, it makes me think of speed, efficiency, who's going to be doing this, and labor shortage and
absolutely,
as a whole, right? And probably all facets of what that looks like. Can we
absolutely,
dive a little bit then into what properties are facing in terms of labor shortage and how
absolutely.
automation, I think that's one of these keywords,
Yeah,
specifically in terms of accounts payable, is helping
yes,
some of these
yes.
burdens?
Absolutely. So there's many areas. People are have labor shortages. They're having a difficult finding the right people for the right positions. And then also the accuracy of the data, because that flurry of everybody wanting the information so quickly, it seems to be almost a panic mode that you get the information in as quick as you can, but we have to assure that it's accurate. So by automating some of these processes, we're taking that data
Mm,
right from the source and we're eliminating the possibility of any human error, because we're all just human. We can misconstrue a number or accidentally place something in an account that you don't want to place it in. If we're taking that data right from a source, that reduces that tremendously.
mhm,
So when it comes to accounts payable, the latest thing we've seen is this, the elimination of someone having to key the invoices. So as you can imagine, in many properties, thousands of invoices come in every single month. And most places have a person or persons who are keying that data, and
mhm,
they're keying as quickly as they possibly can. And then at the end of the month, it's even tougher because you want to close your books for the month in those first few days of the next month. So you're really scurrying to get that data in. So there's now processes that we can handle, that you can scan invoices. So you can actually put them in a scanner, let the system scan those invoices, and they come right into the accounts payable system. So we've eliminated that need for somebody to
mm.
have to key all of that. So we're accomplishing both things: the lack of a person having to do it, and also the the ability that is coming right from the actual invoice. So the chances that I've keyed it incorrectly has been eliminated. So that's
I
very
love it.
important, and that is a trend. We're getting asked about that quite frequently. So there's various levels of that you can put in place, to how extensive you want to automate that process. Do you want to go all the way back to when it's actually on a purchase order, or if you're just satisfied bringing it in at the invoice level? So there's all kinds of variations along the way. And
Hmm.
so we're working with many customers to automate and streamline their processes in that way.
Absolutely, because you don't want that. If we're going to stick with the snow acronym or metaphor here, you don't want the flurry to then turn into a little snowball and gain
Yes,
momentum and screw everything up at the end.
exactly, exactly. Because we have to always remember is the analysis is only as good as the data you're using, and so it's
Uh-huh.
very important that we've got good numbers in the system, um, and quickly, of
Absolutely.
course. Everything's all
And
about how quickly can I get those numbers turned around.
so that automation, I'm guessing, is also linked to integrations. Like,
Oh,
are we connecting from PMSs, POSs?
all of the above in many different ways. everything from, it used to be that a night auditor would run the process at night, and then they would have to create a report, and then that report would go to the income auditor, and the income auditor would have to key that data. And that's how that got into place. So then we got better than that, and we're bringing files across, which is that report just in an automated fashion. And that night auditor still had to hit the button, but it generated a file.
Hmm.
From there, we've come to this new wording that we use for APIs. So as kind of the place that receives the data, our accounting system wants that data on a daily basis when we're talking about PMS and POS. Instead of having to wait for the night auditor to do that, we can go into the system and pull that data as many times as we want to. And that
Mm.
is such a key thing. And what we've all talked about as vendors in various conferences and things that I've gone to is the way to do well as a hospitality vendor is to share information and to allow the ability to get within each other's systems securely, and pulling the right information. It makes it a lot easier for everybody. And at the end, the customer benefits because they're getting their data
Hmm.
quicker and accurately. And we don't have to rely on people having to push buttons or generate files. Yeah.
Preach it, Jill. Preach it.
Uh-huh.
All
I'm
right.
trying. I'm trying. I think it's better. I think each year, Kim, it gets better and better than it's ever, than it's been before. But everybody used to be so onerous of their data and their database, and you can't see how we do it. Not so much anymore. It's more of this. I've got this nugget of information. You've got that piece. Let's put it together and give the customer a better result.
Absolutely. Sridhar, we've walked through quite a few facets of what it is that Aptech is able to bring to the accounting space in the hospitality space. What have you experienced over these last 30, 40 years, seeing these changes, and how are you making sense of what Jill's speaking about today?
Mhm.
Yeah. So, no, thanks, Kim. I think Jill, I have many questions, but I'll just tee up a couple and then you can take them in whichever order, right? One is that I'm assuming that a lot of, I saw on your website that you work with hospitality management groups as well, right?
Mhm.
And for some of these companies, I don't know if some or all of them use an Oracle or an SAP as their accounting base.
Mhm.
But at the same time, hospitality is a little bit different. It's not as simple as retail, which has a lot of inbuilt processes in Oracle and SAP, right?
Right.
So I just want to hear your take on, how they play together. Do you see that in your marketplace with your customers that you're going after? So that is one question. Second was that, it's very easy for your company to see what Oracle and SAP features are bringing to the table, but you also know what your customers want. Like, how do you decide what features to roll out or what to next make available? So I think the Oracle SAP part of it, and then how you do, I mean, product planning is a,
Yes.
catch-all phrase, but I just want to know how you
Sure.
guys think about it in your marketplace. That's all.
Sure. So let me just kind of backtrack to your first question. And the one thing that we made the decision on quite some time ago was not only would we share that data and be the nice person that shook hands with various other systems, but each of our products stand entirely on their own. So you could have just Aptech's accounting, or just our business intelligence, or just our budgeting and forecasting, or any combination. So that was a decision we made. So I can share data with Oracle or SAP, and it doesn't matter to me. It's just data, and so now we're sharing information around what's in the best interest of the customer. And sometimes the situation is those solutions are in place specifically because of something they're required to do.
Right.
Maybe that management company has more than hotels. Maybe they have other
Okay.
businesses that requires them
Right.
to use one of those other solutions. So we'll come in, we'll bring you the operational piece that'll help you manage the hotels better. But let's push those numbers over to the SAPs of the world and let them work with it going forward. And as far as our product planning, absolutely, hands down, based on customers. So we work with our customers year round, and all the features and functions that are put into the system are specifically customer requests. as far as product and overall technology, we have to be sensible and continue to grow and enhance our products with the right back ends of the solutions and tools to make sure that they work as efficiently as they possibly can. But all the features and functions are coming straight from our customers. And we typically do about 3 releases a year so that the customers are getting nice
Wow.
enhancements. It's,
Well, that's
it's
fantastic.
an ongoing process. Yeah.
Nice. I like the forward thinking in terms, it's a nice segue into my next conversation, or
Okay.
which you already mentioned, which is this piece of budget forecasting, right? So
Absolutely.
we're product forecasting, but your clients are looking to forecast their budgets. It ties into what we're talking about today of supercharging our 2025, right? We're right there. We're at the cusp of a new year. So,
Absolutely.
what role does budget forecasting play in helping these properties manage, their fluctuating needs, staffing needs? What other things can we help supercharge in that sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's still many, many people that use Excel as their budgeting tool, and you can do that. But some of the main things we've seen is when a company grows and they have more and more hotels, managing an Excel based budgeting and forecasting solution is tough. Because what happens is usually someone at the corporate office creates that spreadsheet and sends it out to all the properties. The properties key in their numbers and then they send them back. And some poor soul at some property accidentally modified a formula, added a line, did something so that when all that comes back to be consolidated, it won't. It just doesn't work. So what the solution we came to is let's start and eliminate that push out to Excel. So what we did is we took a product that would have one standard set of formulas, and the properties still see it in an Excel-like template. So they feel
Hmm.
very comfortable. 15 minutes of working in it, and they can do their budget or their forecast. And corporate doesn't have to worry about it anymore because the data is automatically going into one common database. They can run the reports, they can consolidate, they can do everything that they need to do. And so there's no more time spent on fixing formulas and fixing things and trying to make property spreadsheets work so that we can bring all the data together. So it's one version of the truth is what we call it, so that everybody can look at one version. They go into an owner's meeting, they need to make a modification. That modification can be made and then it can cascade through the entire system. The
Hmm.
other great piece that this solution will help to play in and people need to think about is when I'm opening a new hotel or I'm taking on a new hotel, I have standards that I expect. Things like if I have this many occupied rooms and my occupancy is running like this is what my expenses should look like. I should be spending this on cleaning supplies and this on linens and things like that. I can set those standards up so that I've built and kind of an expected scenario for that
Mm.
property and give them great guidelines to get started. And that performa capability is really, really valuable. So no one's
Mm.
having to start out with a blank Excel sheet starting to build that from scratch. So there's many benefits to a kind of a standardized budgeting and forecasting solution. We can all
For
work
sure.
from that. Yeah. So
How far out can I guess two questions related to that. How far out can that forecasting go, or how far out does it generally go? And then what happens when there's sort of unforeseen um things? We throw back to COVID and like a toilet paper
sure,
shortage,
absolutely.
or I don't know, is there a way to like alert that?
Yes, absolutely. Lots of different ways. So first, let me tell you, most folks are running kind of an operational line by line budget and forecast. About 18 months is about that
Okay.
rolling 18 months. But many folks have a higher level built 5 and 10 years out so that they
Wow.
can just kind of see where they're expecting to grow, specifically companies that have made an investment and want to take on it and looking for growth. Um, a couple of other things just to mention is the system, and I'm assuming, just speaking overall, it's a very important feature to be able to look back. So I want to take snapshots of my data along the way. So at some point I can say, when I was 90 days out, this is what I expected I was going to do. 60 days out, this is what it was like, 30 days, and then this is how I actually did. And so those
Mm.
snapshots are very important to people, helping them to understand and manage from their past performance. But when horrible things like COVID do come along, variations of that can then be created without somebody having to start
Mm.
all over again. So I can take that.
And that's because the forecast's already there. Everybody's
It's
already
already
input
there.
it, and
Yeah.
you only have to manipulate from one
Yes.
place.
So if I go ahead and now my occupied rooms have gone from this number to this number, once that number is changed, all the related drivers then take place and cascade through the system and give you updated numbers. Yeah.
Mm. I think that's interesting because I think there's this third piece that we'd like to touch on today, which is AI and
Uh-huh.
how AI is transforming various industries,
Mhm.
hospitality not the exception. How are you integrating AI into this sort of predicative
Yes,
insights?
predictions. Yeah. So the AI works best in the more data that it has. So the more data it can read and it can pick up those trends, and then it helps to predict where you're going. And some of those things it can do on the fly. Other ones they can run some algorithms and then comes back with a solution. Um, in hospitality, what we're seeing, not just that ability for the AI piece, but people actually wanting to have a little fun with talking to the tools and saying, can you show me where my revenue was in this area over the past 5 years? And the system will create a little dashboard for you and show that where it is. And then you can furthermore say, and can you then forecast how it's going to finish the balance of this year? And then it will go ahead and create the graph to show you what it believes it will do. So if you have 5 years of history, you're probably going to get a more accurate result than if you're only working with this year and last year. But yes, the tools are there. They're ready to go, and those kinds of things. And I'm sure they'll only get better and better. But people in hospitality are just starting to work with this and understand how it will work best for them. Yeah.
Absolutely. Shadar.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, Jill, I feel that having worked with enterprise customers in the past and listening to
Mhm.
them talk about Hyperion and Anaplan and all of these other things, it does very much seem like you are, Aptech is providing a lightweight of what
Yes.
the Hyperions and Anaplans of the world
Yes.
do uh, at a level of technology overhead that seems to be a lot less than what Hyperion and Anaplan are doing, right? I mean, they're providing the budgeting, forecasting, and all of those other things, integration with Oracle and SAP. And then a lot of customers have a lot of difficulty working with those systems and also training their people how to use those systems, right? So
Yes.
that's fascinating, Jill. I mean, really something I did not know about Aptech at all. So very exciting to hear. And I can see that you're working with companies like Birch Street in terms of rolling out,
Absolutely.
procure to pay integrations with your customers.
Hmm.
So, in terms of your, the best kind of companies that would be suited to take advantage of Aptech suite of services,
Hmm.
I just wanted to hear from you as you what it is today, how you see that changing, uh, and whether you feel your customers are taking advantage of all the features. From what I hear you saying, they could take advantage of more.
Right.
But your customer profile, how is that changing, evolving, or where is Aptech going in your customer profile? If you could speak.
Absolutely. So any of our solutions can be used in a single hotel or a single resort. Works perfectly fine. Um, Absolutely, from an accounting perspective, one hotel would be fine. When you start to get into the business intelligence and the budgeting and forecasting, for a single limited service, it's kind of overkill. You don't need that unless you're a management company or an ownership group that has multiples.
Right.
So we say the multiple starts to play a factor when you're around 5 or 6 properties. So if you have 5 or 6 limited service properties, you're going to start to need those tools, especially if you plan on growing. If you have 1 or 2 properties, absolutely the tools will work for you, but it might be overkill. You may not need that unless you want to set a good groundwork because you plan on taking on 10 more hotels or 12 more hotels or whatever the case may be. But also, we have some customers that have 150 hotels that are using these solutions. So, you know, Aptech likes to serve as the customers. I hate to use the word IT, but we provide IT, but we provide operational support. So we are the ones who help that finance director come up with the best solution to do the next thing that they need to accomplish. So that's, we like to use terms like AI is very, very good, but it still needs humans to kind of guide it to the right solutions. Our team's there to help you get there. And that's what we like most to do. Our favorite thing to do is work with customers on projects. When
Perfect.
somebody says, listen, I want to start over again with a brand new chart and all that sort of thing, we're right there working with them hand in hand to get there.
Thank you.
I love that. I think
Yeah.
this leads into the final piece here that we wanted to talk about today, and that's the business intelligence piece. It works in really well here. I was curious about industry metrics. We've got RevPAR, that's here to, I don't know, here to stay. Is it here to stay? But how have some of these metrics perhaps changed over the years? Or what are the other metrics in addition to RevPAR, new or old, that you feel our businesses really should be paying attention to, and especially when that leans into guest loyalty?
Yes, and exactly. Guest loyalty is absolutely key in this. So, guest loyalty and the ability to know the most you can about your customer and how to find similar customers that will use your services and your hotels and things like that. So, knowing as much as you possibly can about that customer and their trends is absolutely key. And so, business intelligence is very important in this. And I'll go all the way back into the early stages of business intelligence when we all know brands started to use heavenly beds. And we were right there with them tracking which hotels were providing and what impact their performance metrics had because they had made the investment in heavenly beds. So these are the kinds of little things, the little pieces that are so important in unfound revenue, really. And that plays also into the fact of where are people measuring. The other forms of revenue inside the properties is key right now. Would I benefit if I had a spa? Would I benefit if I had a marina because I'm sitting on the ocean or on the beach somewhere? Would these other areas benefit me, and would I be able to pull additional revenues because of that? So knowing your guests, knowing your market, that all plays into this. But it can all be measured and should be measured, just like back when we were working with heavenly beds. Yeah.
All right. I think that's a really, really good example. And I
Yeah.
think as we wrap up our conversation today, I wanted to again kind of talk about what you've seen shift over these last 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
What didn't exist at the onset was mobile,
Mobile. Yeah,
tablet, right?
absolutely.
So sort of on the go
Yeah.
access being especially essential to our current guests. How are you shifting to, or have you shifted rather, to embrace things like mobile, tablet,
Absolutely.
browser-based accessibility? What does that look like in your day-to-day operations?
Yeah. So all of our solutions work totally fine on tablets, iPhones, regular, any kind of smartphone. They all work fine. They all, they'll size to the screen because they're all browser-based solutions. One of my favorite stories, because you wonder what in the world are you going to use accounting for? Those numbers are so small. What could you be? My favorite story, a customer called and said, I love your accounting solution. I just approved all my invoices while I was sitting in the dentist's office waiting to go in to be seen. And it was one of my favorite stories. I thought, well, there you go. That's the true use of mobile technology, when you can approve invoices while you're sitting in the dentist office.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And I think it's a cultural shift. It's a culture shift too, right?
absolutely.
'Cause, like even 40 years ago, it'd be like, why would you be at the dentist office during work hours or whatever? And how we've had to have adapted over the last,
Yeah.
decades. But and I think that leads to me to the final question of today's conversation, and that comes down to you, your time in the industry, you as an individual and a leader, president. Um, what is your company culture like? How has that also adapted, and what role is that playing in customer loyalty for Aptech, for the market? Any anything that you could share on tips in terms of this for other
Yeah,
hospitality tech companies, those younger hospitality tech
yeah.
companies who are also looking to build strong, long-lasting relationships with their clients?
Yeah, one of Aptech's biggest assets is our customers. Average length for customer is 12 years, so you can get
Wow.
an idea. Um, and I can think of one in particular that has been there as long as I have. So that would give you an idea of what that longevity looks like. Um, Aptech will continue to grow based on its customers. We will continue to base our world around our customers and their needs, and staying in the forefront of what that next need is going to be, so we can bring that to them and help them to get farther along in their way. And that continues to be our focus, which with we have got absolutely amazing customers, and we have an amazing staff that supports them, and that is what makes Aptech Aptech. Our products are great, but our people and our customers is what makes us top in our industry.
I love that. And how do you make that happen? And
Just stay in touch. Don't lose yourself to emails and text messages. Go
mm,
visit. We visit. I think our visits this year are somewhere around 20 visits, 10, 20 on site, just going and visiting. I do
um,
many of those personally. Um, I I want to sit down. I want to understand what the team's doing. I want to see how to make it better.
I
And
love it.
that's where that I think that's number one in making success work. So
And
Absolutely.
that goes back to what you touched on earlier, right? AI is great, but humans are better.
humans are
So
better.
sometimes we have to put it down.
Yep, exactly.
Put the mobile down.
Absolutely.
I love it. I
Yes.
love it. It's been a pleasure getting to know you
Oh,
today,
mine is.
Jill, and
I
learning from you. Excuse me, go ahead. I think
It's
there's a
all
bit of
right. I
delay.
said, if I could service anybody or help anyone, by all means, reach out to me. I will be happy to talk with them or give them any suggestions or anything I might have. I just enjoy, I've continued to work at Aptech because I love what I do. And people say to me, when are you going to give it up? I said, not yet. I'm not done. I'm not done. I love what I do. I just can't imagine doing something else. If I didn't love what I
Mhm.
did, I certainly wouldn't still be doing this. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing
Thank
your
you.
story, the Aptech story. Wishing you and Aptech nothing but success
Thank
as we move forward. I'd like to remind the audience that we do have one more show this week coming up at 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific, as always. And Sridhar, as always, it's a pleasure co-hosting with
Oh,
you
thank you,
as well.
Jill. Great to meet you. Thanks for
Great
making
to
the
meet
time.
you as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye bye now.